That morning, Seoul had not fully awakened yet, but the international airport was already pulsing in an unusual way. The cold air of February 2026 felt more tense, as if it sensed that something significant was about to happen. There was no official announcement, no schedule released to the public, and yet somehow, cameras were already lined up, fans stood shoulder to shoulder, and journalists gripped their microphones with sharpened instinct. All eyes were fixed on a single arrival's gate, and when that door finally opened, the world was reminded why. Kim Taehyung had arrived. Without music, without a ceremonial welcome, without a red carpet, Kim Taehyung's presence that morning instantly shifted the atmosphere. It was as if an invisible current surged the moment he appeared. Camera flashes ignited in unison, shutters rattled through the air, and one name echoed repeatedly from every direction. Amid the sea of people, Taehyung walked calmly forward. He had just completed a long flight from Lisbon, Portugal, yet his expression remained composed, his demeanor gentle, and his aura, calm yet powerful, was unmistakable even from afar. He wore a red jacket that immediately drew attention, paired with a simple knit beanie and a black mask covering part of his face. That understated style did nothing to diminish his presence. On the contrary, his silhouette, the way he walked, and his body language made it clear to anyone watching that this was no ordinary figure. In the midst of the bustling airport, Kim Taehyung stood as the center of gravity. Without saying a word, without excessive waves, he had already directed every camera toward a single point. Yet behind the calm Taehyung projected, the situation around him was anything but relaxed. Security that day was noticeably tighter than usual. The bodyguards moved swiftly, forming a close formation to secure every step he took. The pressure from the crowd was palpable. Army who had been waiting since dawn tried to move closer, while journalists competed for the best shooting angles. In conditions like these, every second was crucial, and every step required precise coordination. Taehyung's bodyguards truly had to work overtime that morning. They were not only holding back the crowd, but also constantly monitoring small details that could pose risks. In one moment that later became a media highlight, his manager was seen swiftly placing a hand over Taehyung's head as he was about to enter the car. The gesture happened extremely fast, nearly unnoticed by many at the scene, but the cameras captured it clearly. It was a simple act of protection yet rich in meaning, a reflex that showed just how seriously the safety of one person named Kim Taehyung was being taken. The walk toward the car felt like a short journey filled with tension. The bodyguards used their own bodies as living shields, ensuring there was no dangerous contact, no sudden pushing, and no uncontrolled situation. In the midst of it all, Taehyung continued walking at the same steady pace. He did not appear rushed, panicked, or disturbed. Occasionally, he slightly lowered his head as a polite gesture, a small act that instantly moved fans' hearts. Once Taehyung finally entered the car and the door closed, the atmosphere at the airport changed dramatically. Cameras that had been flashing nonstop were lowered one by one. Some journalists looked momentarily lost, while others stopped recording as if realizing that the main moment had ended. The scene became an honest portrait of the reality of today's global entertainment industry. One person gets into a car, and the world's attention moves along with him. This return of Kim Taehyung was not merely a trip home from abroad. After nearly a week in Lisbon, his presence in Europe had already drawn its own spotlight. Yet it was his return to South Korea that triggered the strongest wave of reaction. Within minutes, photos and videos of his arrival spread across platforms. Korean news portals made it their headlines, while international media also picked up the story as one of the day's main news items. Interestingly, there was no announcement of a new project, no press conference, no official statement from his agency. And yet global search numbers surged sharply within 24 hours of his return. The name Kim Taehyung once again dominated timelines, proving that his influence requires no major trigger. His mere presence is enough. Amid all that attention, the public response felt warm and full of empathy. Instead of demands for a comeback or new work, the most common message was simple: hopes that Taehyung would stay healthy and be able to rest well. Many fans recognized that behind his status as a global star, Taehyung is still a human being who had just endured a long and exhausting journey. Media psychologists often describe an aura like Taehyung's as authoritative calm, a state in which a person does not need to assert dominance aggressively to be acknowledged. The greater the pressure that comes, the calmer the response becomes. And it is precisely there that the strength lies. That morning at Seoul's airport, the paradox was clearly visible. The world felt noisy, while Kim Taehyung remained quiet and controlled. However, that calm does not come without burden. The immense spotlight, the tight security, and the need for extra protection raise deeper questions. Why must one person bear this level of attention? Why does public space seem to offer so little distance? Many industry observers have begun to raise these issues, questioning the line between admiration and excessive pressure. On the other hand, some view this moment as tangible proof of Kim Taehyung's position in the global entertainment landscape. He does not need to do anything to become the center of attention. He only needs to be present. From Lisbon to Seoul, from Europe to Asia, that magnetism remains the same, unaffected by location, language, or time. For fans, this moment of return felt like a brief yet meaningful reunion. Seeing Taehyung arrive safely, walk calmly, and finally enter the car without incident was enough to bring peace of mind. Many expressed gratitude to the bodyguards and staff who worked tirelessly to protect him under immense pressure. The awareness that such tight security is necessary only deepened public understanding of the risks that accompany global-level fame. When Taehyung's car finally left the airport area, the world resumed its movement. Yet the echo of that morning did not fade immediately. Photos of the red jacket, videos of the tight security, and short clips of his steps continued to be replayed, analyzed, and discussed. February 2026 thus recorded an event that might appear simple on the surface, but was rich with meaning beneath. Kim Taehyung's return to Seoul that morning was not merely about the distance traveled from one country to another. It was a reflection on the power of silence, on how a single individual can influence the emotions of millions without uttering a single word. It also served as a reminder that behind the camera flashes and tight security, there is a human being who continues to walk in his own way. And perhaps that is where Kim Taehyung's greatest appeal lies. He does not force the world to look at him. The world chooses, on its own, to turn its head. In closing, that February morning in 2026 at Seoul's airport will be remembered not for grand events or major announcements, but for a single quiet moment that spoke louder than words. Kim Taehyung's calm steps amid tight security, the extra effort of the bodyguards ensuring his safe entry into the car, and the world's simultaneous attention all came together to form an honest picture of his position today. He returned without official cheers, without a stage, without demands, yet remained the center of global attention. Not because of sensation, but because of the consistent calm and maturity he continues to show. Behind his status as a global icon, the public was once again reminded that Kim Taehyung is a human being carrying a great weight in the quietest possible way. And perhaps that is why the world continues to watch him. Because in the midst of a noisy, high-pressure industry, Kim Taehyung chooses to walk calmly, and it is precisely in that calm that he makes the world pause for a moment, then turn together.